Everything we know about the Seven Shoes is a lie, and all of it is actually just an elaborate ploy created by entities way worse than the shadows we're dealing with now. And I can prove it to you within this video. This is a compilation of my 3-part series that I recently wrapped up. I added additional evidence and commentary to this video just for more context that I think you guys should know about. For those of you who are new here though, I really hope you enjoyed this hour-long theory that took me about a month to make. Guys, do you think Baiji is the most powerful person in the Seven Shoes? Well, that's a stupid question. Of course he is. He's the leader and a literal god, unlike the others. He can destroy the entirety of Antares, he can create doubles, and the most important thing, he broke the Zodiac astral ring into 7 pieces and gave them to 6 other people, therefore being the founder of the Seven Shoes. He's the most powerful, he has to be. Today, I'm going to prove he's not, because I believe I have found something that twists the narrative on its head and changes everything. This makes the perception reveal look like nothing, and the worst part of all, it tells us all about it in the chapter. We just didn't look hard enough. At least I didn't. I may look like an idiot, but I won't know until I post this, will I? By the way, I will be putting this theory into 2 separate parts because I found a lot, okay? This is a big one. Baiji is characterized as the strongest in the story, but there are a few lines that contradict that. Like this scene where Ajita says that she will help him, but then says, if the balance made by falsehood crumbles like shattered glass, I won't mind collecting some of its precious shards, which is creepy as hell. I think she's saying that she'll replace him, but I don't know how she has the authority to do that. In this scene, Baiji gives Ajita a shard of the Zodiac astral ring, then says, I hope you can help us like you always have, implying that Ajita helped him before she even became a shoe. At the beginning of the conversation, once Ajita appears, Baiji says she didn't think she would come personally and thought she was going to use an artifact of hers to lecture him as if he were a child. And this is the most obvious one, the truth of falsehood can only be held by gadgets. We are in a mutually beneficial partnership. All of these things combined really makes you wonder what the power dynamic between these two actually are. And when I started looking into it further, that's when I discovered something huge. In one scene, Ajita explains what the Rite of Tears is to Baiji, and everything seems normal at first, but when you think about it for a couple of seconds, the fact that she's the one telling Baiji what it is a little bit weird. You're telling me that the leader of the Seven Shoes that is hellbent on ridding the world of these shadow calamities didn't come up with a main ceremony that said to do exactly that himself? Instead, Ajita came up with it and Baiji just put it into action? Okay, that's a little weird and not what I expected, but that doesn't mean anything, right? You could say it was teamwork. Ajita's the brain of the Seven Shoes and Baiji's the strength. And you know what? That's a valid argument, and I would agree with you if that was the only thing. You know that thing that caused this whole mess in the first place? It birthed perception, broke the Zodiac astral ring into 7 pieces, and now Baiji hates himself for it? Yeah, that thing? Ajita told him to do that. It all began 100 years ago when, under Ajita's exhortations, I attempted to contain the 10 Faces of Misery. That's right, Hoyoverse is using words that haven't been popular since the 1850s. Exhortation means to emphatically urge someone to do something. So not only did she tell Baiji to do this, but she did so in a rather aggressive manner. Now, I don't know if you noticed, he only said it about 20,000 times during the chapter, but Baiji blames himself for this. Only himself and not anyone else. Which is weird since we just determined that she forced him to do this. Look at this line. Baiji says, no, I alone should take the responsibility. He emphasizes I alone like someone else could be responsible for this. And I have a feeling I know who that someone else is. Look at her response when he says this. That's a pretty big thing that happened. But wait, there's more. If Ajita forced Baiji to use the original Astral ring to contain all of the 10 faces of misery, what do you think that implies? There are 2 instances where Baiji says he does not know a lot about the Astral ring when he is talking to Lantern and when he is talking to the main cast, except that time he adds that it was a gift from a friend. Guess who's the friend? I bet you never will. It's Ajita, as always. It always seems to be Ajita. At the beginning of their conversation, Ajita mentions the Zodiac Astral Ring without Baiji even bringing it up. Baiji informs Ajita that the Zodiac Astral Ring broke, but wait, why does he have to inform her that it broke? It seems to me that Ajita gifted the Zodiac Astral Ring to Baiji so that he could attempt to contain the 10 faces. This is confirmed by the very next line. Ajita says, I suppose it's only theoretically feasible to integrate the Shadow's authorities into a singular point. This proves that Ajita actually wanted this from the beginning. Not only that, but Ajita knew it would probably fail too, since she said it was only theoretically feasible, but she still made him do it. Apparently, she was prepared for this to happen as well, since Baiji said one thing that happened after it broke was just as she predicted. Ajita predicted that even though it broke, its power is still there, so his plan is to hand over the fragments to the right people. And you guys know what that is. That is what the entirety of the 7 shoes are based on. Then Ajita drops a bomb by saying she remembers working on that contingency plan with him. A contingency plan is basically a plan B, a plan you make in case things go wrong. Wait. Did this woman just say the entire concept of the 7 shoes was a backup plan for if this failed? This entire time, we thought the 7 shoes was the main thing here, when in actuality, it was a backup plan made by these 2 people right here. Which actually makes sense, because if plan A did succeed, then there would be no perception, no shadows, because there would all be in the Zodiac Astral Ring, and the ring would still be in one piece, so there would be absolutely no reason for the shoes whatsoever. She said they worked on Plan B together, and you can see that when Baiji talks about Plan B. He says the biological affinity of this instrument might give us the opportunity to turn the tables. Baiji's in on this plan with her, and the 7 shoes will benefit both Ajita and Baiji in particular somehow. To add on to this, if Baiji was in on Plan B, maybe he was in on Plan A as well. They planned B together, which proves that Baiji was also working on possibilities for if the Zodiac ring broke. So maybe his mistake wasn't really a mistake. To summarize, these 2 were in a beneficial relationship before the 7 shoes were even a thing. Together, they made 2 plans, Plan A and Plan B. Plan A was to contain all the 10 faces of misery into the Zodiac Astral Ring, but since there was a high probability of Plan A failing and the ring breaking, they made a Plan Plan B, which is the entire concept of the 7 shoes. As expected, the ring broke, so they went with Plan B, and Baiji was the first one to give Ajita a fragment because obviously they're partners. What else would he do? Now that we're on the same page, let's talk about why. Why are they doing this, and what are these plans even for? You would think it's to get rid of the shadows because Plan A was to contain all the 10 faces, but if that was true, why is Ajita making a deal with one? We may have no idea why they are making these plans, but the one definitive thing is that they are in a partnership together and they seem to have a good relationship, right? Wrong. When asking Baiji to carry out Plan A, Ajita was unnecessarily rude considering they worked on this plan together. Ajita threatened Baiji by saying that she will take his place once he goes. She apparently reprimands him. She strictly tells him that this is not a partnership for friendship, but a beneficial one where one can get what the other wants. She then adds, at least for the time being, yet again threatening him, basically saying, if you no longer give me the things I want, we are no longer partners. When Plan A failed, perception was created and Baiji didn't know about it, but guess who did and didn't tell him about it, which created a lot of problems for him, didn't it? He got severe damage from the tremendous surge from the Astral and she just doesn't care? Last but not least, when Baiji talks about how he's going to carry out Plan B, she refuses to even lift a finger to help him, just tells him to do it on his own while she sits back and relaxes, despite them working on it together. This is not an equal partnership. Baiji is Ajita's boy. Call her Thelema because she is dominating. Baiji, are you really gonna take this, my boy? Strangely, the answer is yes. Like I said, Ajita is unnecessarily rude to him when asking him to act out Plan A, but he just complies with it. When Ajita leaves him to go relax instead of helping him, he's completely fine with it. The way she phrases this makes it seem like she's demanding or ordering him to do this. Same with Plan A, and Baiji complies with it all. So there's a master and servant relationship between these two. The only question is, why does Ajita seem to be the master and Baiji seem to be the servant? Actually, I lied. That's not the only questions. There's so many more. What is the reason for these plans? Why are they doing this? Why would making the 7 shoes help them in particular? Why does Ajita seem to have the high ground here? Baiji's supposed to be the leader, so that doesn't make any sense. Why are they special? They planned Plan B together, so that means they just dragged 5 more people into what they were already doing. Why are they special, and why are they even together in the first place? Last but not least, what even is the Zodiac Astral Ring? It seems to be the center point of both of these plans, but why did Ajita have it and give it to Baiji? Ajita's not even the original owner because Baiji said Ajita predicted that the ring will still have its power even if it's broken into fragments. The key word there is predicted, so she didn't even know. Who is the original owner of the Zodiac Astral Ring? These are a lot of questions. Thankfully, I believe I have the answer to all of these, and trust me, you guys will not expect the answers. A post-Songque Odyssey was an entirely new game mode and story that people quickly fell in love with. Even the people who don't like Part 2 are eagerly waiting for Chapter 3 of this mode. It takes place 8 years after the Honkai vanished from Earth, which is really awesome, but this is the Honkai universe, so you know the characters can't go a decade without something horrible happening. The new story is about the sudden invasion of an alien race known as the Sky People, and the cast tries to figure out what is happening. happening. The only problem is, we don't know when this story is going to take place in the timeline. We know it's coming, but when? Well, what if I told you that ever since part 1.5, there has been a massive underlying story in the form of subtle hints dealing with these guys, and yes, that does include part 2. Actually, part 2 holds the most hints about the Sky People yet. Be sure to watch till the end of the video to see what that's all about, and let's get started. Before we start talking about the clues, we need to talk about who the Sky People are. The Sky People are, quote, ruthless energy hunters. The wiki says it's specifically Honkai energy they go after, but it's actually energy of any kind. I get why they made this mistake though. Honkai were the only monsters in this game for a very long time. That recently has changed though, hasn't it? Yes, this is an important distinction, so keep this in mind for later. The Sky People are ravenous creatures. They are insatiable. Energy is like crack to them, and they need that crap in their veins. They usually succeed in taking all energy from the planets they invade because they have technology that greatly surpasses Earth and a lot of other planets. When they succeed, they destroy every trace of that planet, so that's fun. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about how they find planets to invade to begin with. They use these things called Vanguard Stones, which are purposefully made to look like asteroids so people wouldn't bat an eye. What they actually are space shuttles that a scout would get into and then search for planets that are weaker than them. If they find one that's stronger, they'll just frick off like little pansies. But if they find one that's weaker, they'll monitor the planet by sending grunts and harvesters there. These grunts and harvesters could either lay low and wait for the planet to advance in technology enough so that the energy levels would skyrocket, or they could harvest the energy themselves. The Sky People can wait too. They first showed up on Earth in 1908 in an event known as Tunguska, but didn't attack or become known to others until 2005. These grunts and harvesters are so inconspicuous that no one knew the Sky People were on Earth until 97 years after they came. The last thing I want to talk about are the hell gates of pain and miseries. I mean the Stargates. The Sky People use these Stargates as teleportation devices, and they take the form of a diamond with cracks around it. Keep note of this because these will be appearing throughout the video. The first actual mention of the Sky People is in the Salt Snow Holy City arc, specifically chapter 38. These are the most obvious hints of the Sky People in the main story. Most of you know about these, so I'm just going to lightly touch on them. Susanna appears in St. Fountain, Sayla talks to Timido, you stop fighting Honkai and start fighting Code Zero the Fool, and Kira and Nigoroth talk about them for a bit, calling them galactic pirates. There isn't much lore here, it's just APHO references for shock value, but while Kira and Nigoroth are investigating the Sky People, Nigoroth says the Elder once said that the Sky People were designed into being. But what kind of entity could create a group of interstellar hunters? Nigoroth, I am so glad you asked. Let's talk about it. In chapter 39, we see some of Saw's past and see that she was part of a group of people trying to save Venus from the abyss. One of these people was Marah. Marah was the only one to immediately retaliate when Saw started going insane and wiped out the entire planet just to escape the abyss. She was reduced to nothing but a cleaner working for Saw just like Vita. She's very vocal about her hate hatred towards Saw, and she was already planning an escape, a plan that she eventually executes on. In chapter 42, while Saw is approaching Vita, Vita grumbled about how Marah took all of Saw's cleaners with her to live a happy life as an interstellar pirate. That should sound familiar to you. Vita mentions how Marah learned to absorb all the energy of a bubble universe. Exactly what the Sky People do. As well as being a cleaner for Saw, she was also delegated a special task. She was given the name Star Traveler, and she would be thrown into space where she would search for a new home for Venus. Something happened to her while she was searching though, because she didn't come back. She did send a letter to Saw though. The letter reads that she is in a dimension where Saw cannot reach her. Thank you for bringing me to the edge of the solar system. Otherwise, I would have never believed in the influence of the stellar wind. I'm not going to read all of this. You guys can if you want, but the most important part of the letter is this. Go ahead and leave your Star Traveler here to rust. You arrogant people are unable to use the Stargate, but that does not mean that I cannot either. Next time we meet, you'll be begging for mercy. She says that she uses a Stargate, which proves that she is a sky person. In fact, when Vita walks up to Marah in chapter 39, Marah looks a bit different than usual. It sounds a lot like Marah created the Sky People, but that's not exactly right. It's more like Marah was the main person who made the Sky People a separate species. Saw's main goal was to become as powerful as possible to create phosphorus, and when the Abyss comes back, she could handle them. So she started absorbing energy from the Sea of Quanta, absorbing energy from bubble universes, started absorbing energy from the intertidal zone, and stole the Ark's engine because it had Honkai energy. That's 4 separate energy sources that she was feeding off of to get stronger. It's clear that she wasn't looking for any particular type of energy, matching the exact mentality of the Sky People. Marah learned how to absorb all of a bubble universe's energy from Saw. Saw was the only one who knew how to absorb energy from bubble universes before her. So it seems like Saw created the Sky People to further her own goal of collecting energy to get stronger, but Marah detached all relations with Saw, making the Sky People a completely different alien species that has nothing to do with her as we know them today. Saw is also a sky person herself. Duh, she is the original sky person. When one of her previous assistants, Tyler, tells her to do something, she does it, but not before slipping into something that should be familiar to us by now. Also, there's this. A diamond-shaped portal with cracks coming out of it. That seems familiar. I want to talk about the influence that the real world and science fiction books have on the Honkai storyline, especially recently. The solar system of the Honkai universe is based on our actual solar system with the 8 planets, the only outlier here being phosphorus. Although, the idea for phosphorus might have come from the planet X theory, a well-known theory that there could possibly be another planet in our solar system that is beyond Neptune. 2 places aside from Earth that we've gone to in Honkai are the Moon and Mars, and people have gone on the Moon and are planning expeditions to Mars IRL. The only thing that is not taken from real life is the Venus civilization for obvious reasons. As for books, Adam Ruhani and the concept of Dreamseekers are inspired by this book called The Dictionary of the Khazars. Bitterness for 3 Sleepwalkers is a short story about reincarnation. The point I'm trying to make is that Hoyoverse frequently gets inspired by real-world events and obscure literature. And that's why I perked up when I saw that there was a book titled The Sky People by S.M. Sterling. It's a alternate history mystery/science fiction book where the US find alien life, and you can guess who the aliens are. In this book, not only is there a civilization on Venus, but that's where the US find the Sky People. The Sky People also invade Earth and put a gate on Earth, which is interesting. I left something out though. The US not only find the Sky People on Venus, they also find them on Mars. Which is weird because if this was inspired, which it seems to be, we haven't found Sky People on Mars yet. Keep this detail in the back of your mind for the rest of the video. ここで会うのは偶然ではないが、私を殺すために来たのかい? Some of you guys might be inclined to click off this video and write me off as a madman. 1, I already knew that, and 2, here are some questions you may have. Baiji, a sky person, seriously? Isn't part 2 a completely different story? Aren't the Sky People invading Earth, not Mars? Besides, Baiji has been on our side this entire time, and nothing shows— wait, what did he just do? First of all, he just made a portal, which we have never seen him do before. Second of all, that portal looks very familiar. This is a Stargate, and you know what that means. Other than this Stargate, Baiji also speaks in red sometimes. And do you know who also speaks in red? I assumed speaking in red was specifically Saw's thing, but since they are her creation, of course the Sky People can speak in red as well. Baiji is a sky person, and that's a heartbreaking discovery. This is Sanchi's master, someone she trusts and protects wholeheartedly. Everyone in the Seven Shoes trusts him. This is a way worse betrayal than perception. Either he's genuine or he's really good at utilizing his power, and I'm starting to think it's the latter. Alright guys, that is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching.
Come on, man.
What?
You're supposed to talk about when the Dami Mommy is dominating.
Oh, the Dami Mommy? Oh yeah, I did forget about her.
Fuck.
Yeah, she's a sky person too. Ajita, a sky person, based on what? 4 red words in an anecdote? That's it? Yeah, we established that the Sky People speak in red, but that's too little information. Ajita has never shown any indication of being a sky person, unlike Baiji has. The good news is, she doesn't really have to. One thing I didn't mention about the Sky People earlier, they consider their right hand as unclean, and cover it up in public, except slaves, because they deserve to be ashamed, I guess? I don't know, man. Aliens are weird. So all we have to do is look at Ajita's hands to see that her right hand is covered, and her left is not. How did Thelema not see this? She would be ashamed of you, Ajita. This is totally uneven. Jokes aside, every other shoe has both of their hands either covered or bare, including Baiji, which means he's a slave. This confirms 2 things: that the Sky People are way stronger than we thought, because how the hell is he a slave? And that Ajita is higher in status than Baiji. The reason why Baiji is complying with all of her demands and threats is because even though their technology may be advanced, the Sky People still haven't abolished slavery yet. So to him, this is all normal and as it should be. Slaves should shut up and do whatever they're told. He's the one with the bare right hand, you disgusting creep. There are 2 hierarchies that are mashing together here, so let me explain further. In the 7 Shoes, Baiji is the most powerful of these other 4. But in the Sky People hierarchy, Baiji is the lowest of the low, while Ajita is higher than him. Ajita is also in the 7 Shoes with him because as Sky People, they came up with the plan of the 7 Shoes together. Speaking of, let's talk about the reason for both of these plans. When Baiji was explaining Plan A to the main cast, guising it as a mistake of course, Coralie and Helia break down what Baiji and Ajita were doing by comparing the 10 faces to Honkai. What Mr. Baiji attempted to do was forcefully gather the energy, aiming to seize control by condensing a Hersha core. Oh, so they were attempting to steal energy? And not just a little bit by the sound of it, they wanted all of it. How interesting. Tell me more, Helia. Oh, perception is like a Hersha? Hershas have a lot of energy. I wonder if that's why Ajita wanted to make a deal with it in the first place. Also, isn't Linkchu a bubble universe? And what does Sa and Marah know how to do best again? I'm not concluding anything. I'm just saying it's coincidental that bubble universes happen to be the exact thing that sky people go for. Plan B is the entirety of the 7 shoes, and I guess the thought process there was if we can't suck up the energy of the shadows ourselves, why not enlist 5 other people and hope teamwork could help? This was a way for them to turn the tables. Part of that was so that they can recontextualize what they tried to do with Plan A. All of a sudden, this isn't a random guy that tried to steal all of the shadow energy for no reason. Now it's a valiant effort by the future leader of the 7 shoes to end the shadow calamities, acting like he had this intention from the very beginning. Baiji and Ajita are suddenly painted as heroes in Oxia and Linkchu that are trying to stop all this, not knowing that they planned this from the start. Look at this. This was the moment that Baiji created the anchor of Linkchu to seal all of the shadows down in Linkchu. It is later revealed that Baiji collaborated on this with Ajita as well, so here's a question for you. Was this a selfless act to save Oxia and lock the shadows down here with the 7 shoes? Or was it to imprison the shadows down in Linkchu with them so that it would be easier to capture their energy? Of course, I don't know their true intentions with this part specifically, so that's just an assumption, but it's important to remember that these 5 actually think there's nothing more to this than stopping the shadows. They're the real heroes here, which makes Baiji and Ajita way more suspicious here as they're the only ones that have ulterior motives. Baiji and Ajita want to stop the shadows like the other 5, but for a completely different reason that I will go into later. Ajita talks about the 7 shoes like she's completely unassociated with them. Shouldn't this say us? You are a part of the 7 shoes, right? Baiji also does this, but then corrects himself. And as the leader of this whole thing, that's very telling. Don't forget the 7 great individuals you're talking about includes yourself, dude. When Baiji gives Ajita part of the Zodiac astral ring, he says, I hope you can help us to the best of your ability as you have always done. Sorry, who is us? The other 5 are not a part of this yet, so at this point, it should only be Baiji and Ajita. Who is us? Is there more people? People of the sky variety, perhaps? Maybe, I don't know, but this does confirm that there are other people helping them that we haven't seen yet. Basically, the 7 shoes is one giant cover-up for all of Baiji and Ajita's past and future actions, and what makes it more believable is that most of the members don't even think it is one. That is only part of what Plan B is for though. There's more. Remember what I told you at the start? That these minions of the sky people can either harvest energy themselves or lay low and wait until the civilization advances enough that the energy would be higher? Plan A was Ajita and Baiji's vain attempt to harvest the energy themselves, and once they realized that wouldn't work, Plan B is them laying low and hoping the other 5 would do it for them. The shadows are a really dangerous calamity that is stopping them from advancing their civilization, and guess what? It worked. Songque defeated Perception and along with her, the entire Shadow Calamity. Now they can work on bettering Langchu, and that is exactly what is going to happen in the interlude. It's only a matter of time before rebuilding turns into advancing, and therefore only a matter of time before the rest of the Sky People come down to do the rest of the job. Baiji and Ajita used their determination to defeat the shadows to their advantage, and it worked. The key component in both of these plans is without a doubt the Zodiac Astral Rain. It was used as the device to absorb all the energy, and it was used to enhance the 5 abilities to be able to defeat the shadows. This naturally brings up the question, what is the Zodiac Astral Rain, and why did Ajita have it before Baiji did? This may seem impossible to answer because nothing in the chapter indicates where it's from, but you already know where this is going. I found something. While Thelema and Serapeum are talking about how great Baiji's gift is, Thelema touched her fragment of the rain where fragments of stardust crystals were stored. Oh, so the Zodiac Astral Rain stores stardust crystals, huh? What the hell does that mean? There's nothing in the whole arc that indicates what stardust crystals are. The only thing we have is that there's a type of enemy called stardust, but that doesn't mean anything, does it? The concept of stardust did get introduced to us when we were on Phosphorus, aka the planet that Saw made, and in the arc, it was established that if the Raging Flood somehow didn't kill every civilian, then Saw made a backup catastrophe in the form of the Paradise Wardens. The Paradise Wardens were made of stardust and did drop stardust crystals. All of this is to say, Saw did design special enemies made out of stardust crystals. In Marah's letter, she also mentions stardusts, dubbing them as the natives. Is it possible that the Zodiac Astral Rain is one of the advanced pieces of technology that the Sky People have? That would make sense why Ajita and Baiji used the rain for the purpose of absorbing all of the shadow energy, and why it's being used to enhance the other abilities to be able to defeat the shadows. My theory is that the Sky People found Mars, wanted to steal energy from its bubble universes, so they gave Ajita, one of their harvesters, the Zodiac Astral Rain, and sent Ajita and one of their slaves, Baiji, there to monitor. They immediately went to suck up all the energy, but the rain broke during it. They knew that would happen, so they came up with the 7 shoes, a way to cover up their previous and future actions, as well as using the other 5's willpower to defeat the shadows so that Langchu could advance. Langchu is in a pretty tough situation right now. Ironically, defeating the shadows was the worst thing they could have done, because Plan B succeeded, and now Langchu's going to rebuild and advance, and like I said, it's only a matter of time before the rest of the Sky People come. And when they do, they'll be begging for the shadows to come back, because if Baiji is the lowest of the low in terms of power, like Marah said, they'll be begging for mercy. What will Baiji do now that Plan B succeeded? Who knows? I know what Ajita will do though, and that's searching for this continent that she kept bringing up. And now that we know her true nature, I don't think that's a good thing. Senadina got remmed. It's a sad tale. Hey, at least Sena's not in a coma, right? Oh gosh darn it! In the last few videos, I revealed that the 7 shoes is all a facade created by these two who are actually Sky People. But today, I'll reveal that some of the other shoes may have more to do with this situation than we originally thought. Obviously, Chapter 3 EX was a lot, so I want to talk about that as well. Let's go! Let's start with the obvious one. I think Senadina has something to do with Kiana's coma. Ever since Kiana embraced the Kakuna finality and became a goddess, she's been having a peaceful life up on the moon without any problems for 6 years. Until Senadina came along, and the next thing we know she has a problem and can't wake up? Kinda weird. Am I saying she's evil because she has something to do with Kiana's coma? No, of course not. She's obviously one of the good guys. I'm just saying if Sena does have something to do with it, there's probably a reason for it. Let's talk about the twist. We found out that the entirety of Oxia in Langchu is a quantum computer, and besides Dreamseeker, Helia, and Coralie, everyone else is an NPC. That's what we assume, but is that really true? One of the things that was revealed was that Dreamseeker has actually tried to save Langchu and Oxia multiple times. Obviously, that would mean she did something differently because she succeeded. We can pinpoint that to be the dream that she had. Without it, she couldn't warn Baiji that Perception was the bad guy and she'd fail again. Just one problem with that. Baiji created the dream and not her. How exactly did he do that? That was never really explained. It's almost like he had something to base that dream off of. Before she explained the dream to him, he said, "Who was it that killed me?" So he did have a vague premonition that he was going to die, but couldn't nail down the specifics. Just like Dreamseeker had a vague sense of deja vu when she met Songque for the quote-unquote first time. I don't think Baiji's an NPC. I think he is like Dreamseeker, a sentient piece of data that exists in the computer but also knows what's going on. My main reason for thinking this is there were multiple attempts before this one, implying that Baiji never crafted the dream in previous samsaras. If he is just an NPC, this would make sense because aren't NPCs supposed to do everything the same? That's how they work. One of the first theories I ever did was that Baiji and Senadina had a connection. Looking back on it, it's kind of sloppy because all I did was say, this box is Baiji's treasure, but this box also appears with Sena, therefore they're connected. I'm revisiting this theory because there's a lot more that I have discovered, such as Sena potentially being in grave danger. I just told you about the box, so we're going to skip over that and go to an anecdote titled Aurora. In the last video, I proved that Ajita was the one who gave Baiji the Zodiac Astral ring. But this anecdote contradicts that. Baiji shows an Astral ring to Ajita and she acts surprised like she doesn't know what it is. Furthermore, it's described as a star with a brilliant glow and that it takes the form of a ring. That doesn't sound anything like the Zodiac Astral ring. It sounds like this one. Baiji's talking about this ring. How? He says it fell into his hands, but he never explains himself, and for now, we don't know why. The only time we saw this Astral ring in the story so far is when Goddess Senadina gave it to us. So can you blame me for thinking they're connected? The biggest thing that happened in Chapter 3 EX is Sena gets forgotten by everyone but Dreamseeker, as well as not appearing in any of the terminal's records. This immediately makes us question her existence in the computer and reality. Let's switch topics for a second and discuss Lantern Against Shadows. This is an event where Tsavorae, Helia, and Coralie go on an adventure. You can argue the validity of what I'm about to show you because it's an event, but I think some things we hear are canon to the main plot, like this scene at the very end where Baiji comes to lecture both Helia and Coralie. At first, I couldn't make any sense of this, but now I can. Especially the end where he says, "I will not hurt either of you. I will only take memories from both of you. I hope that you will never meet Tsavorae again." Okay, so it sounds like he took away the memories of an entire person person from both Helia and Coralai's minds. That's cool, I didn't even know he could do that. Wait, that sounds familiar.
セナってセナディアだよ。
Is this a stretch? Maybe, but considering he's the only one we know can do this, he's the only suspect. Plus, I already have a suspicion that Baiji isn't an NPC, so I can't really shrug this off. Why is Dreamseeker the only one who remembers then? Is he just taunting her? If we look back to the event, he made Helia and Coralai forget who Tsavorae is. Helia and Coralai are two real people that exist, unlike Dreamseeker, who's just sentient data. Perhaps he can't use this power on data, so he just settled on using it on them. May, Bronya, and the rest don't even know about her since she's not in the terminal records. But what if she is in the records, and this is just an illusion conjured up by Falsehood? He always talks about creating false truths, and with his power, the line between truth and lies are blurred, so this could be possible. Take a look at this scene. We just found out that Sanchi's alive, everyone is really joyous and relieved, then this cute CG happens when everyone is looking at Dreamseeker with hope and love in their eyes. Everyone except for Baiji. He's looking towards Sena. That's not creepy at all. This happens right before the simulation ends and everyone forgets her as well, so that's kind of suspicious. After my last video, someone asked me, since Plan B succeeded, what happens to Baiji now? Theoretically, he should search for the next source of energy. One of the first theories I ever made was about Senadina. Not this one being a Kakuna finality clone. I won't go over the details again, I'll just point you to the video. If Senadina is a clone of the Kakuna finality, it must have taken a lot of energy to make this clone. Uh-oh. What if Senadina is the next source? Thelema's distaste for Baiji is pretty apparent. He belittles him, calls him boring, they have a feud going on, and is concerned about her safety when he goes off on his own. Yet, when she first joined the Seven Shoes, she calls him the most interesting person she's ever seen and happily agrees to join him. So what caused this drastic change? It could be because she realized who Baiji truly is. When Thelema and Serapeum are talking about her shadow ailment, she says she's not a fan of being a servant in someone else's hands. A servant is always a servant. Why would 100 years change that? Then it says that Thelema was hinting at something else, but chose not to name anyone. Someone else, huh? Who else would be a tool in someone else's hands and is a servant? She's talking about Baiji. She might even know about Ajita by the sounds of it, and honestly, I'm all for this. Ajita dominates Baiji and Thelema will dominate her twice as hard for trying to take her power. You go, girl. Don't take my word for it though, take hers, as she literally calls him a fake in this scene. No matter how elaborately disguised, a fake remains a fake. It sounds an awful lot like Thelema knows about the Seven Shoes being a cover-up. Baiji doesn't even care that she knows either. He states, ever since the day you accepted this, haven't we all known it deep down? Baiji knows that she knows, and he's also saying that everyone else subconsciously knew it as well. Let's talk about these five for a moment. In my last video, I stated that Baiji and Ajita used their determination to defeat the shadows to their own advantage. But it's not just determination. It's a desire for fame, a desire for pleasantries, a desire to make everyone happy, anything that would make them say yes instantly without thinking twice about it. They used personal desires because personal desires are only human nature. By the time they think twice, they're already trapped in what they think is their safe haven, so yes, maybe later down the line, they will all figure it out. Thelema was just the first one to realize that this is all bullshit. Okay, so Thelema knows the truth. So what? Plan B has succeeded, so does it even matter? Yes, actually, because Thelema might be the savior of Lankchu. You've heard of the Astral, you've heard of the Zodiac Astral, but have you heard of the Ecliptic Astral? Yep, there's a third Astral. It's only mentioned once, but that's enough. It is described like it's the most powerful one. It can reshape authority and subvert the world, and it fell from the sky, which makes me wonder if this is also an advanced piece of technology from the sky people. It's also broken. These Astralines tend to do that. Thelema has this in her possession, so it's no wonder why she takes shots at Baiji without any care in the world. It's because she can overthrow him on a random Tuesday if she wants to. She's power fluid. An example of subverting the world would be if Thelema wanted to be feared and listened to, and then all of a sudden she gets those exact powers out of seemingly nowhere. Oh, that's what that was about. I owe Thelema an apology, because that is actually so dope, but I'm also scared and want you to get the hell away from me. That's not it though, because she also says those powers are inscribed in the 12 houses. What are the 12 houses? Is that another group of people? Come on! You're getting predictable, Honkai. What's next? The 10 stone hearts? Luckily, we have a document that gives us some information on what the 12 houses are. The full name is the Zodiacal 12 houses, which is interesting, but not what I want to focus on. I want to focus on these names. Do they seem familiar? They should, because they are the names that Goddess Enadina mentions to Kiana in the prologue. I hope that the bubble universes sheltered by the 12 constellations can create a new future with their own hands. Is Thelema one of these 12 constellations? One of these saviors that was delegated to this specific bubble universe? If so, is Thelema a fake name? Because what the hell is this? Bet you didn't expect to see Tsavorae here, did you? We seemed to learn everything about her. What else is there? One of Tsavorae's quirks is that she's constantly in debt. She has to watch herself because everything can get her deeper into debt. It will take forever to pay back, even without interest. It's played off as a funny joke, but we quickly learn that her creditor is Ajita. The natural question that follows is, why does Tsavorae owe Ajita? But that's not the biggest question. What I'm more concerned with is the length of time in which she's had debt. At the end of Fragment of 8 Consciousnesses, Tsavorae says she's been owing Ajita for over 2 millennia. For those who don't know, that's 2,000 years. I hope you can see the discrepancy here. The 7 shoes weren't a thing 2,000 years ago. Plan A wasn't even done 2,000 years ago. So what the hell? What deal goes on for 2,000 years? Why has it gone on for this long? Why has it been going on before the 7 shoes existed? You're telling me Tsavorae is actually 2,000 years old? At least the 1,000-year-old woman looks like an adult this time. Kudos to Honkai for that one. This also confirms that Ajita is over 2,000 years old as well, which kinda proves some things from previous parts because she's a lot older than everyone else. Let's go back to this anecdote. We've determined Baiji's talking about this Astraline and that Ajita also knows about it. At the end of the anecdote, he talks about his plan to create a human god. This is an important detail because now we have the clarification that the human god plan he talks about has nothing to do with the Zodiac Astraline, it has to do with this one. So tell me why, when Baiji gives Tsavorae the Zodiac Astraline, Tsavorae asks if he succeeded with that plan. Baiji says no, he failed, and you know the rest. But why is he talking about this with Tsavorae? If she knows about the this plan. Does she also know about this as well? All of chapter 2, we're trying to escape Tsavorae, who's trying to kill us. At the start of the chapter, we get this scene, which is pretty straightforward, but there's some interesting stuff here. She says she can kill the cast herself, but she needs his permission to do it for some reason. She's destruction. She can just kill them outright. Why does she need the power of someone else? I got a comment on my last video that told me about this event called Starry Voyage. Again, you can argue the validity of this statement because it's an event, but it has to deal with the Sky People, so you tell me. People from civilizations the Sky People invade can strike a deal with them in exchange for them feeding the Sky People energy at regular intervals. They will cease attacking. It's also a way to save other planets and civilizations from their wrath. Joanna explains this as collecting debt with high interest, and I find it really fascinating that this circumstance can be phrased in this way because that is exactly the situation that Tsavorae is in. Did she make a deal with the Sky People? She and Ajita did make a deal 2 millennia ago, which doesn't make any sense with the story of the 7 Shoes, and it's hinted that she's working with Baiji, 2 people who are allegedly Sky People. There's too little information for me to be 100% sure that this is what's going on, but it's a possibility to consider. I covered this beginning conversation in another video, but I want to talk about it again. Like I said earlier, Dreamseeker gets this random feeling of deja vu when she meets Songque for the first time, which we now know is probably because of the previous samsaras. She also says we're destined to die, which now has a new meaning, because how does she know that? She goes on this rant about destiny and fate, and then she asks if she can alter our destiny. Our destiny of the previous samsaras, perhaps? Songque was the one who vanquished the shadows, so she did alter our destiny. Add her to the list of non-NPCs, because I'm suspicious. Speaking of these two, a Redditor pointed something out to me that has been on my radar for quite a while, but I just keep forgetting to talk about it. Most of the powers of the shoes are very different from each other. Pleasure, destruction, union, sacrifice, gadgets. Falsehood and deception, though, are very similar. Deception is trying to make you believe something that isn't true, mental lies. Falsehood is making you see something that isn't true, illusions, aka physical lies. They both have the same truth/lie thing going on for them. I'm not insinuating anything when I say this, I'm just telling you guys this and you can come up with your own theories. Is anyone else still confused as to why she acts completely differently in the scene compared to all the rest? She's confident, kind of playful, and dodges around the point, speaking in these nonsensical riddles. Then she just disappears and comes back later as the clumsy Songque we know today. I also haven't forgotten about the glowing eye thing from the first look. What the hell is that about? You guys may say this is nothing, but I'm going to ask you a question. Can you picture Songque as we know her today saying these lines? Last but not least, we need to talk about how the quantum computer and the Dreamseeker terminal operate, as well as the ending, because so much stuff happened all at once. All of Link 2 and Oxia was a simulation in a quantum computer that May and Prometheus found on Mars. That's where May and the rest found Dreamseeker, as the Dreamseeker terminal is connected to the quantum computer. Kiana went into a coma at the exact same time Prometheus found the computer. Thus, May and Bronya believe they are connected in some way. They believe if Dreamseeker finds a way to defeat the Shadow Calamity, Kiana will wake up. But we did, and she's still asleep. Which means either two things. They have this completely wrong and the computer has nothing to do with her slumber. Maybe she ate too many instant noodles and crashed. Or the Shadow Calamity Calamity wasn't the only thing wrong with Link, Chu, and Oxia, and there's another layer. I think it's obvious to all of us what that is, but for now, the characters are oblivious, and they don't know which one of these two it is. That is until Dreamseeker goes into the quantum computer again. She enters what seems to be the same Oxia, but it's actually very different. Dreamseeker's having memories of Sena that she doesn't remember, Shinzu doesn't recognize her and arrests her, and most importantly, the anchor is gone. For one, I haven't put a lot of thought into these memories. I think they are just memories that Dreamseeker hasn't unlocked yet, and she will know about these in the future. The anchor of Apocalypse being gone is weird though. Itsugiru had the inclination that since it was gone, this was the past, and there's actually a lot of weight to that theory, because the anchor of the Apocalypse was made 100 years ago, right after the Great Eruption hit to split up the two worlds, and obviously people didn't move it, because look at this thing. It's not there, which leads me to believe this is 100 years in the past, which also implies that the Great Eruption hasn't even happened yet. That's not all though. Chenzu doesn't recognize her. Why is Dreamseeker getting arrested here? Didn't Chenzu do this earlier to Helia, and Dreamseeker said, "That's a mean prank, Chenzu. How are they supposed to know term 22 doesn't exist?" I call foul play, and I want to see a law book immediately. Dreamseeker is getting arrested for a law that doesn't exist. Or maybe the law existed 100 years ago, and it doesn't now. I believe Dreamseeker is in Oxia 100 years in the past, which leads us to the obvious question, why would the quantum computer send us to a version of Oxia 100 years in the past? I'd like to think of the quantum computer as a video game. We beat the Shadow Calamity after such arduous trial and error. The quantum computer recognized that and sent us somewhere different. If the Shadow Calamity was stage 1, she's now in stage 2. I think our next objective is to stop Ajita and Baiji, because Plan A and Plan B also took place 100 years ago. They are clearly the next layer to all this. If stage 1 was the Shadow Calamity, stage 2 would be the Baiji Calamity, trademark. That's right, I'm naming this whole incident after him. I don't care if Ajita's higher in power. Baiji's kind of an ass. There's one more thing we have to solve before I wrap this video up. Why the hell is Vita with us now? Continuing on with the game analogy, along with advancing to the next stage, the quantum computer also unlocks stuff that wasn't available before. Dreamseeker got some of her memories back, as well as +1 Vita. Thank you so much. This is the best gift ever, no matter what Dreamseeker says, and we will take good care of her. She can now occasionally keep us company, and while I'm certainly not complaining, I'm very curious as to why the quantum computer now allows Vita in with Dreamseeker. It must be for the objective, right? But Vita has absolutely nothing to do with Oxia, Link, Chu, or the 7 Shoes, unless Baiji and Ajita really are sky people, in which case the only person that can help us defeat Saw's former cleaners is another former cleaner. People seem to have this assumption that the 7 Shoes will go away and never be heard from again, when that is anything but the truth. Even though this 7 Shoes story arc is over, we still have a ton of questions. Baiji and Ajita are still a complete mystery to us, and even the other 5 members we thought we discovered everything about had this whole extra part to their story that we were completely oblivious to, which kind of makes you question, did we even learn anything in this arc? No, what we learned was the elaborate disguise that Baiji and Ajita set up for us, and we fell for it hook, line, and sinker, as well as only surface level information about all the other shoes. I haven't even touched on the little things, like why Baiji treasures this box so much, the wish granting pot, and the law. There is a way more sinister story here that we all missed. And now that Dreamseeker is 100 years in the past, we'll learn more about Plan A, the birth of the 7 shoes, both Baiji and Ajita, and many more details so that we can finally find out the truth about what the hell is going on here. If you guys are still watching at this point, I would like to thank you so much for dedicating an hour of your time to watching my stupid little theory. If you liked it, maybe check out some of my other theories and consider subscribing for more of this type of content. For now though, I'm signing off. Goodbye.